We do not and will not target people for religious beliefs, and we do not and will not monitor.
Brian, two questions for you. Do you believe that? And what more have we learned about the FBI's efforts since then?
Well, thanks for having me on. No, I don't believe it. And this is why we need to get to the bottom of what's going on inside the FBI. This is not just an issue for Catholics. It's an issue for all people of faith. What we had here was an FBI analyst in a field office authorizing a federal law enforcement agency to spy on people going to church. Again, this is not just a Catholic question. Chris Wray did say that he was aghast. The Attorney General said it was appalling. And we have filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the FBI to have them turn over documents so that we can better understand what went on. Why did this happen in the first place? Why is our federal government authorizing, until we found out, by the way, via a leaked memo, its agents to go in and begin secretly meeting with priests or diocesan officials or even churchgoers in order to use them as tripwires to spy on their fellow Americans?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Brian, your organization is threatening to sue the Department of Justice for more information if it needs to. What specifically are you requesting, and do you think you're going to be stonewalled here?
So last month, we did file this request, as we are entitled to as citizens, that requires the government to be transparent and to turn over any and all related documents to how this memo came to be. The expiration on that request, the requirement for them to get back to us, is the end of this week. And if we don't get what we are entitled to by law, we will file a federal lawsuit next week in order to get that. What we get, we don't know. Certainly, we can see, based on the documents that have been turned over to congressional committees, that there was explicit authorization for the FBI to go in and to go undercover into Catholic parishes to begin determining or deeming what they're calling domestic threats. And this is where I think the escalation gets especially worrisome.
Yeah, you know, because they made it sound like, the Department of Justice made it sound like, this was kind of like one guy who had this kind of boneheaded idea, and it wasn't really a very big thing. But what you're uncovering and what the House committee is uncovering was that it goes a lot deeper than just one person's memo.
That's right. It fits a larger pattern that we've seen ever since January 6th and the exploitation of that event for political purposes. And that is, if you hold a political position or a policy position that's opposed to the goals of this administration, you are deemed a potential threat to democracy. And that you may come under then the surveillance of the Department of Justice, including the FBI. This is a gross abuse of the authority that we grant them to hunt down criminals, to pursue criminal activity, particularly threats to the country, and holding a differing political opinion, last I checked, as long as the First Amendment still is in place, is not a violation of the law.